A 10-year-old girl's desperate cries echoed through an empty house in Kampala. "Mama, please stop. I'm sorry." Her tears fell on cold floors while bruises covered her tiny arms. But everything changed the day her father came home early. What he discovered behind closed doors shocked everyone who knew them. Hello friends, welcome to Tales by Cal. Before we start, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Nairobi, Lagos, Johannesburg, or maybe London. We want to know. Can a parent's absence destroy a child's world? Let's find out. The black Mercedes pulled through the tall gates of the beautiful house in the wealthy Kololo neighborhood of Kampala, Uganda. Kwame Osei stepped out of the car, his expensive business suit wrinkled after the long flight from Dubai. His dark face showed deep tiredness after being away for 2 months working on construction projects across the Middle East. He stretched his sore shoulders and looked up at the big white house that used to feel like home but now felt cold every time he returned. In his hand, Kwame carried a pink shopping bag. Inside was a beautiful doll with brown skin and traditional Ugandan clothing. He had bought it at the Dubai airport, remembering how his 10-year-old daughter Amara had pointed at a similar doll in a shop window months ago, her brown eyes shining with hope. Kwame smiled slightly, imagining her happy face when she saw it. He could almost hear her excited voice calling, "Daddy, Daddy," and feel her small arms hugging his neck the way she used to do. But as he walked toward the front door pulling his black suitcase behind him, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Usually Grace, their housemaid, would be at the door smiling. Or he would hear Amara's footsteps running to meet him. But today there was nothing, just heavy silence that made his chest feel tight. Kwame unlocked the door and stepped inside. The marble floors were shining clean. Everything looked perfect and expensive just like always. The golden curtains, the leather furniture, the big paintings on the walls. But the silence pressed down on him like a heavy weight. "Amara," he called out, his deep voice echoing through the empty hallway. "Daddy's home." No answer. He frowned and set his suitcase down by the wooden staircase, still holding the pink bag. "Natalie? Grace? Anyone home?" Then he heard it. A sound that made his whole body freeze. A child crying, desperate and afraid, coming from somewhere upstairs. "Please Mama, please stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." It was Amara's voice, his daughter, and she sounded terrified. Kwame's heart started beating very fast in his chest. He dropped the pink bag on the floor and ran toward the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. The crying was coming from Amara's bedroom at the end of the hallway. "Please Mama, it hurts. I promise I'll be good. Please stop." Kwame's hands shook as he grabbed the door handle. What he saw when he pushed the door open made him feel like someone had hit him hard in the stomach. Amara was kneeling on the floor beside her bed, her small body shaking as she cried. Her beautiful black hair, which was usually in neat braids, was messy and wild. Her school uniform was dirty and torn at the shoulder. And there, standing over her like a dark shadow, was Natalie, his wife, holding a thick wooden stick in her raised hand. "How many times must I tell you?" Natalie's voice was cold and mean, nothing like the sweet voice she used when Kwame was home. "You don't deserve to eat at this table. You don't deserve anything in this house. You're nothing but a burden to me." "Mama, please," Amara begged, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean to drop the plate." Smack. The wooden stick came down hard across Amara's small shoulders. The little girl screamed in pain and curled up tighter, trying to protect herself with her thin arms. "What is happening here?" Kwame's voice exploded through the room like thunder. Natalie jumped and spun around, her eyes wide with shock. The stick fell from her hand and hit the floor with a loud sound. For a moment, she just stared at Kwame, her mouth opening and closing but no words coming out. "Kwame," she finally said, her voice shaking. "You're home early. I thought your flight was tomorrow." But Kwame wasn't looking at her. His eyes were locked on Amara. His daughter, his precious little girl, was shaking on the floor, tears running down her dirty face, her arms wrapped around herself. When she saw him, instead of running to him like she used to, she pressed herself back against the wall, her eyes filled with fear. That look broke something deep inside Kwame's heart. He moved quickly, dropping to his knees beside Amara and gently reaching out to her. "Baby girl," he whispered, his voice shaking. "It's okay. It's Daddy. I'm here now." Amara stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. Her bottom lip was shaking. Daddy? Her voice was so small, so broken. Yes, my child. I'm here. Kwame carefully pulled her into his arms. She was so light, so thin, much thinner than she had been 2 months ago. He could feel her tiny ribs through her uniform. His chest felt tight with pain and anger. Kwame, I can explain. Natalie's voice changed completely. Now she sounded sweet and innocent, like a completely different person. This is just discipline. Amara has been so badly behaved lately. She threw food on the floor. She talked back to me. I was only trying to teach her respect the way any good mother would. Shut your mouth, Kwame said in a low, dangerous voice, standing up with Amara still in his arms. His face was dark with rage. Don't you dare call yourself her mother. A mother doesn't beat a 10-year-old child. A mother doesn't make a little girl scream in fear. Natalie's face changed. Fake tears started falling from her eyes. She pressed her hands to her chest like she was hurt. But Kwame, you don't understand. I've been trying so hard to raise her properly while you're always away traveling for work. She needs discipline. She needs to learn. She needs love, Kwame shouted. She needs kindness. She needs someone who won't hurt her. He looked down at Amara in his arms. She had buried her face in his shoulder, her small body still shaking. Gently, carefully, he pulled back the sleeve of her uniform. What he saw made rage explode inside him like fire. Bruises. Dark purple and yellow bruises covered Amara's thin arms. Some were old and fading to green. Some were fresh and angry red. There were marks on her wrists that looked like someone had grabbed her too hard. Scratches on her shoulders. And when Kwame gently touched her back, Amara cried out in pain. How long? Kwame's voice was deadly quiet now, which was somehow more frightening than his shouting. How long have you been hurting my daughter? I never. Those bruises are from her falling down. She's clumsy. Don't lie to me. Kwame's eyes burned with fury. I can see exactly what these marks are. How long? Natalie's face changed again. The fake sweetness disappeared. Now her face looked ugly with anger. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I disciplined her. Someone had to. You're never here, Kwame. You're always flying around the world playing the big businessman, leaving me alone with your bratty daughter. She's spoiled. She's difficult. She looks at me with hatred in her eyes. I was trying to fix what you ruined by spoiling her when her real mother was alive. Get out, Kwame said, his voice ice cold. Pack your things. You are never touching my daughter again. Never. Natalie's face went pale. Kwame, you can't be serious. I'm your wife. We're married. You love me. Kwame looked at her with disgust in his eyes. I don't know who you are. The woman I married would never hurt a child. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. Before I call the police. You'll regret this, Natalie screamed, her face red with rage. You'll be sorry. Get out. Natalie grabbed her expensive handbag and ran out of the room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The room fell silent except for Amara's quiet crying. Kwame sank down onto Amara's small bed, still holding her close. He looked at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time in weeks. Her face was pale and thin. Her eyes had dark circles under them like she hadn't slept properly. Her lips were dry and cracked. Her hands were rough and red like she had been doing hard work cleaning. She looked like a little ghost of the happy child she used to be. My baby girl, Kwame whispered, his own eyes filling with tears. What have I done? What have I let happen to you? Amara finally spoke, her voice tiny and broken. You came back, Daddy? Of course I came back. I always come back to you. But Mama Natalie said you wouldn't. She said you didn't love me anymore. She said you liked her more than me. She said. Amara's voice broke into sobs again. She said you would send me away if I told you anything. Kwame felt like his heart was being ripped apart. He held Amara tighter, rocking her gently like he used to when she was a baby. Listen to me, Amara. Look at me, my child. Amara slowly raised her head, her tear-filled eyes meeting his. I love you more than anything in this whole world, Kwame said firmly, his voice thick with emotion. You are my daughter, my precious, beautiful daughter. Nothing and no one will ever change that. I should have been here. I should have protected you. This is my fault and I am so sorry. It's not your fault, Daddy, Amara whispered. You were working. That doesn't matter. You are more important than any job, any business trip, any amount of money. You are the most important thing in my life. And I promise no one will ever hurt you again. Do you hear me? Amara nodded slowly, then suddenly wrapped her thin arms around Kwame's neck and burst into fresh tears. But these tears were different. These were tears of relief, of safety, of finally being protected. Kwame held his daughter and cried with her, his heart breaking for all the pain she had suffered, his mind filling with guilt for being absent, for trusting the wrong person, for failing to see what was happening in his own home. Chapter 2. Kwame carried Amara downstairs to the kitchen. She held on to him like a baby monkey, her face buried in his shoulder. He could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. The house felt different now, like all the expensive furniture and golden decorations meant nothing. Only Amara mattered. Grace. Kwame called out as they entered the bright, clean kitchen. The elderly housemaid appeared from the storage room. Her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Kwame holding Amara, fresh tears spilled down her wrinkled cheeks. Mr. Kwame, sir, Grace said, her voice shaking. I'm so sorry. I should have found a way to tell you. I should have. Grace, it's okay, Kwame said gently, though his voice was still tight with anger at the situation. I need you to help me now. Can you prepare some warm food for Amara? Something soft and easy to eat like porridge or soup. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Grace hurried to the stove, her hands shaking as she began heating up vegetable soup. Kwame sat down at the kitchen table with Amara still in his lap. He brushed her messy hair back from her face with gentle fingers. Sweetheart, when was the last time you ate a proper meal? He asked softly. Amara's eyes dropped to her hands. Her voice was barely a whisper. I had some bread yesterday morning. Yesterday morning? Kwame's voice cracked with pain. That was more than 24 hours ago. What about lunch yesterday? Dinner? Breakfast today? Amara's small voice got even quieter. Mama Natalie said I didn't deserve to eat at the table with them. She said I had to earn my food by doing chores and cleaning. But when I did the chores, she said I did them wrong. So she sent me to my room without food. Kwame closed his eyes, fighting back the rage that threatened to explode again. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm for Amara's sake. How long has this been happening, my child? Since you left. 2 months ago. 2 months. His daughter had been starved and beaten for 2 whole months while he was away in Dubai making business deals and signing contracts. While he was staying in fancy hotels and eating expensive meals in restaurants, his little girl was going hungry in her own home, being hurt by the woman he had trusted to care for her. Grace placed a bowl of warm vegetable soup in front of them, along with soft bread. Here, little one. Eat slowly, okay? Your stomach needs to wake up gently after going so long without food. Amara looked at the food like it was gold. Her small hands reached for the spoon, but they were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. Here, baby, let daddy help you, Kwame said softly. He took the spoon and carefully brought it to Amara's lips. She sipped the soup slowly, and Kwame saw tears rolling down her cheeks as she ate. Why are you crying, sweetheart? He asked gently. It's so good, daddy, Amara whispered. I forgot what real food tastes like. Those words stabbed Kwame's heart like a knife. As Amara ate, Grace stood nearby, wringing her hands nervously. Finally, she spoke up in a quiet voice. Mr. Kwame, sir, there's something else you need to know. Kwame looked up at her. What is it, Grace? The old woman glanced toward the doorway as if afraid Natalie might appear. Then she took a deep breath and said, It's not just Miss Natalie, sir. There's someone else who has been coming to the house when you're away. Someone who has been helping her. Who? Kwame's voice was sharp. Your cousin, sir. Mr. Jabari. Kwame frowned. Jabari was his younger cousin who he had helped many times over the years. When Jabari needed money for school, Kwame paid. When Jabari needed a job, Kwame gave him a position in his construction company. When Jabari needed a place to stay, Kwame let him live in one of his rental properties for free. Jabari was family. What about Jabari? Kwame asked, though he was starting to feel sick in his stomach. He's been visiting almost every day while you're gone, sir, Grace explained, her voice shaking. He and Miss Natalie have long private meetings in your office. They close the door and lock it. Sometimes I hear them arguing about papers and money. And one time, Grace's voice dropped even lower. I heard Miss Natalie tell him that everything was going according to plan. According to plan? Kwame's eyes narrowed. What plan? I don't know exactly, sir. But a few times I heard Mr. Jabari say things like, "Soon the company will be ours and Kwame won't know what happened until it's too late." I'm so sorry, sir. I should have found a way to contact you, but Miss Natalie threatened me. She said if I told you anything she would have me arrested for stealing. She said she would make sure I never worked again and that my grandchildren would suffer. Kwame's mind was racing. Jabari, his own cousin, the family member he had helped and trusted for years. Could Jabari really be working with Natalie against him? But then Kwame remembered something strange. About a month ago he had received an email from an unknown address. The message was simple: check on your daughter. Things are not what they seem at home. Kwame had thought it was spam or someone playing a bad joke. He had deleted it without thinking much about it. But what if someone was trying to warn him? "Grace, where is Natalie now?" Kwame asked. "She went to the guest bedroom, sir. I heard her on the phone shouting at someone. It sounded like she was calling Mr. Jabari." "Good. Keep her away from Amara. I need to make some phone calls." Kwame gently sat Amara down in the chair. "Baby girl, you stay here with Grace and finish eating, okay? I'll be right in the next room where you can see me. I'm not leaving you." "Don't go, Daddy." Amara grabbed his hand, panic in her eyes. "Look, I'm just going over there." He pointed through the doorway to the living room, which was only a few meters away. "You can see me the whole time. I promise I'm not going anywhere." Amara slowly let go of his hand, though her eyes stayed locked on him, watching his every move. Kwame walked into the living room and pulled out his mobile phone. First he called his lawyer, a tough man named Moses Kintu who was known as the best lawyer in Kampala. "Moses, it's Kwame Osei. I need you at my house immediately. It's an emergency." "What's wrong, Kwame?" Moses asked, his professional voice turning serious. "I need to divorce my wife and get a restraining order against her. I also need to file criminal charges for child abuse. And I need you to investigate my cousin Jabari. I think he and Natalie have been working together to harm my daughter and possibly steal from my company." "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Moses said without hesitation. "Don't let Natalie leave the house and start looking for any evidence you can find." Next, Kwame called his head of security, a former military man named Thomas Okello. "Thomas, I need you to review all the security camera footage from my house for the past 2 months. Send everything to my email. Every room, every angle, every day." "Right away, sir," Thomas responded immediately. Then Kwame called his personal doctor. "Dr. Achebe, I need you to come to my house right now. My daughter has been hurt. I need you to examine her and write down all her injuries. This might become a legal case." "I'm coming now," Dr. Achebe said without asking more questions. Kwame hung up and stood still for a moment, his jaw clenched tight. He looked back toward the kitchen where he could see Amara eating slowly, Grace sitting beside her like a protective grandmother. His daughter. His precious little girl. He had failed her by being absent, by traveling too much, by trusting the wrong people. But he would make it right now. Whatever it took. Upstairs, Natalie's voice echoed through the hallway. She was shouting into her phone. "Jabari? Jabari, you need to come here right now. Kwame came home early. He saw everything. The plan is falling apart." There was a pause as she listened to whoever was on the other end. "I don't care what you're doing. This is an emergency. If you don't help me fix this, we're both finished. He's going to figure out what we've been doing with his company documents." Another pause. "Fine. But hurry. And bring those papers we talked about. The ones from his office. We might need them as protection if he tries to fight us." Natalie ended the call and stared at herself in the bedroom mirror. Her perfect makeup was smudged. Her carefully styled hair was messy. For the first time in months, her mask was cracking and her true face was showing. She grabbed her expensive suitcase from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. Designer dresses, expensive shoes, gold jewelry. If Kwame was serious about throwing her out, she needed to be ready. But she wasn't going down without a fight. She and Jabari had worked too hard on their plan to give up now. For 6 months they had been slowly working to destroy Kwame from the inside. While Natalie kept Kwame distracted with fake love and complaints about missing him, Jabari had been stealing money from the construction company, sharing business secrets with Kwame's competitors, and trying to turn the company managers against Kwame. They had been so close to taking over everything, the company, the money, the properties. But now Kwame knew the truth about how Natalie was treating Amara, and everything was falling apart. Natalie's phone buzzed with a text message from Jabari. On my way. Don't worry. Kwame doesn't know everything yet. We can still fix this. Natalie smiled coldly. Jabari was right. Kwame might have discovered her treatment of Amara, but he didn't know about the forged documents, the stolen money, or the lies they had spread to his business partners. He didn't know that 3 of his company managers were already on Jabari's side, ready to vote Kwame out and make Jabari the new boss. There was still time to turn this situation around. Downstairs, Kwame returned to the kitchen. Amara had finished her soup and was now eating bread slowly, though her eyes were getting heavy with tiredness. Come on, sweetheart, Kwame said gently, lifting her up again. Let's get you cleaned up and into fresh clothes. As he carried Amara toward the stairs, the doorbell rang. Kwame opened it to find Dr. Achebe, a kind-faced man in his 50s carrying a medical bag. Thank you for coming so quickly, Kwame said, his voice heavy with emotion. Of course. Where is the patient? This is my daughter, Amara, Kwame's voice shook. She's been abused by my wife. I need you to examine her and document everything you find. Every bruise, every mark, everything. This will be used in court. Dr. Achebe's face grew serious and sad. Let's go somewhere private. They went to Kwame's home office, a large room with comfortable leather chairs, wooden shelves full of books, and a big desk. Kwame sat Amara down gently on the leather sofa. Amara, this is Dr. Achebe, Kwame explained softly. He's going to check your bruises and make sure you're okay. I'll be right here the whole time. Is that okay? Amara nodded slowly, though she looked scared. Dr. Achebe was very gentle and kind. He examined Amara carefully, asking her where it hurt, checking her arms, her back, her legs. With each new bruise he found, his frown got deeper. He took photos with a special medical camera and wrote detailed notes in his book. Mr. Osei, the doctor said quietly when he was finished, these injuries show repeated physical abuse over several weeks. Some of these bruises are healing while others are fresh, which means the abuse happened many different times. She also shows signs of not eating enough food and not drinking enough water. Kwame's hands clenched into tight fists. Can you write an official medical report? Something that can be used in court. Absolutely. I'll have it ready by tomorrow morning. Dr. Achebe looked at Amara with kind eyes full of compassion. And Mr. Osei, this child needs more than physical healing. She needs to talk to a counselor, someone who can help her deal with the emotional trauma. What she's been through, that kind of pain doesn't just go away on its own. I'll find the best therapist in Uganda, Kwame promised. Whatever she needs, I'll make sure she gets it. After the doctor left, Kwame helped Amara take a warm bath, being very careful not to hurt her bruised skin. He dressed her in clean, soft pajamas with little stars on them that she loved. Then he carried her to his own bed, the big master bedroom, where she would feel safe and protected. Daddy, Amara's small voice came from the pillows. Yes, baby? Are you really staying this time? Or will you have to go away again for work? Kwame sat down on the edge of the bed and took Amara's small hand in his large one. Listen to me very carefully, my child. I'm never leaving you like that again. Never. My company, my business, my work, none of it matters compared to you. From now on, wherever I go, you go with me. And if I can't take you with me, then I'm not going. You are my first priority. You are my everything. Promise? Amara's eyes were wide and hopeful. I promise on my life, Kwame said firmly. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. Now sleep. You're safe. I'll be right here in this chair watching over you. Amara's eyes slowly closed. Within minutes, she was asleep, her breathing soft and even, finally peaceful. Kwame sat in the chair beside the bed, watching his daughter sleep. His heart ached with pain and guilt. How had he been so blind? How had he trusted Natalie so completely without seeing her true nature? How had he not realized that his own cousin Jabari might betray him? His phone buzzed with a text message from his head of security. Footage uploaded to your private email. Warning, it's very disturbing to watch. Kwame opened his laptop and logged into his email. There were dozens of video files organized by date and camera location. He clicked on the first one from the kitchen, dated 2 weeks ago. What he saw on the screen made his blood boil with rage. Kwame sat at his desk in the dark office, his laptop screen glowing. Amara was sleeping peacefully in his bed just a few meters away. He put on headphones so the sound wouldn't wake her, then clicked on the first video file. The footage showed the kitchen from 2 weeks ago. The timestamp read 1:45 p.m. Kwame watched as little Amara walked into the kitchen after coming home from school. Her uniform was neat and clean. She looked so small and fragile. Natalie entered a moment later. Even through the silent security footage, Kwame could see the anger on her face. Her mouth moved. Kwame turned on the sound very low. "I'm hungry, Mama. Can I have lunch?" Amara's small voice asked. Natalie's response was sharp and cruel. She pointed at the floor. Amara shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. Natalie grabbed Amara's arm roughly and pushed her toward the corner of the kitchen. Then Natalie picked up Amara's lunchbox from school and dumped all the food into the trash bin. The sandwich, the fruit, everything gone. Kwame watched his daughter cry silently, begging. But Natalie just walked away, leaving Amara alone in the corner, hungry and afraid. Kwame's jaw clenched so tight his teeth hurt. He clicked on another video. This one was from the hallway 3 weeks ago. Amara was carrying a basket of laundry that was almost bigger than herself. She was struggling with the weight. She stumbled and dropped it. Clothes scattered across the clean floor. Natalie appeared like an angry storm. She grabbed Amara by her braided hair and pulled her to the ground. Kwame could see Amara screaming, crying, trying to pull away. Natalie's hand rose and fell, slapping Amara across the face. Once, twice, 3 times. Hard slaps that left red marks on the child's dark skin. Kwame had to pause the video. His hands were shaking. His vision blurred with tears of rage and guilt. This had been happening in his own home, under his own roof, while he was thousands of kilometers away in Dubai making business deals and signing contracts. He forced himself to continue watching. Video after video, each one worse than the last. In one clip, Natalie made Amara kneel on uncooked rice for 2 hours as punishment for talking back. The rice cut into Amara's small knees, leaving marks. In another video, Natalie locked Amara in a dark closet for half a day because she didn't clean her room fast enough. There was footage of Natalie forcing Amara to clean the entire big mansion by herself. Scrubbing floors on her hands and knees. Washing high windows while standing on dangerous stools. Carrying heavy buckets of water. Meanwhile, Grace tried to help Amara secretly, but whenever Natalie caught her, she would scream at the old woman and threaten to fire her. The worst video was from just 3 days ago. Natalie had found Amara's precious diary, the one her real mother had given her before she died from malaria when Amara was only 5 years old. The diary had Amara's memories, her drawings, her thoughts about missing her real mama. In the video, Amara was crying and begging for her diary back. But Natalie ripped pages out of it, one by one, and threw them into the fireplace. Amara collapsed on the floor, sobbing as her memories burned to ashes. Kwame closed the laptop. He couldn't watch anymore. His whole body was shaking with rage. He wanted to storm upstairs to the guest bedroom where Natalie was hiding but no. He had to be smart about this. He had to handle this the right way for Amara's sake. He looked over at his daughter sleeping in his bed. She looked so innocent, so small, so vulnerable. How could anyone hurt such a beautiful, defenseless child? How could Natalie pretend to love him while torturing his daughter? How could Jabari, his own family, be part of this evil plan? A soft knock came at the door. "Come in," Kwame said quietly. Grace entered carrying a cup of hot tea. "I thought you might need this, sir." "Thank you, Grace." Kwame took the tea with grateful hands. Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I've been watching the security footage too, haven't I? It was horrible, sir. Every day I tried to help Miss Amara when I could, sneaking her food, trying to protect her. But Miss Natalie threatened me constantly. She said she would have me thrown in jail if I told you. She said she would make sure I never worked again, and my grandchildren would suffer." The old woman's voice broke with emotion. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Kwame. I should have found a way to contact you no matter what. I should have been braver." "Grace, stop," Kwame said firmly but kindly. He stood up and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You were scared. I understand that. And you did help Amara. I saw that in the videos. You gave her food when Natalie wasn't looking. You tried to shield her. Thank you for that. You have a good heart. What will you do now, sir?" Grace asked, wiping her eyes with her apron. "I'm going to make sure Natalie and Jabari pay for what they've done," Kwame said, his voice like steel. "Both of them. But first, I need to understand their full plan. You said you heard them talking about papers in my office. Do you know what papers they meant?" I'm not sure, sir, but I know Mr. Jabari has been going through your files when you're away. I've seen him in your office at night looking through your cabinets. And last week, I saw Miss Natalie coming out of your office with a stack of papers, looking very happy with herself. She was smiling in that evil way she does. Kwame immediately went to his office safe, a large steel box hidden behind a painting on the wall. He entered the secret code and pulled it open. His heart dropped like a stone in water. Papers were missing. Important papers. The most important documents in his entire business life. The ownership documents for his construction company. The contracts with his biggest clients. His personal will. Stock certificates worth millions of shillings. All of it gone stolen. They're planning to steal my company, Kwame whispered, the truth hitting him like a truck. That's what this is all about. Natalie was never interested in being my wife. She was just keeping me distracted, making sure I was always traveling, always away from home. While I was gone, Jabari was positioning himself to take over my business. Suddenly everything made sense. Over the past few months, Kwame had noticed strange things happening at work. Important meetings that he wasn't invited to. Business partners who suddenly seemed cold toward him. Company managers who questioned his decisions. He had thought it was just normal business problems. But it wasn't. It was Jabari slowly poisoning everyone against him, turning his own company against him, preparing to push him out. And while Kwame was distracted by his failing marriage and constant business trips, Natalie and Jabari had been stealing everything. His documents, his reputation, his company. And worst of all, they had been hurting his daughter to keep her silent and scared so she wouldn't tell him what was happening. Kwame's phone rang. It was Moses Kintu, his lawyer. Moses, thank you for coming. Where are you? I'm pulling up to your gate now, Moses said. I'll be at your door in 1 minute. Kwame went downstairs and opened the front door. Moses Kintu stood there, a tall, thin man in his 50s with sharp, intelligent eyes and silver hair. He was carrying a leather briefcase and looked very serious. Kwame, what's the emergency? Moses asked as he stepped inside. Come to the living room. I have a lot to show you. For the next hour, Kwame showed Moses everything. The security footage of Natalie abusing Amara. The medical report from Dr. Achebe showing Amara's injuries. Photos of Amara's bruises and cuts. Then Kwame explained about the missing documents from his safe and his suspicion that Jabari and Natalie were working together to steal his company. Moses's expression grew darker and angrier with each piece of evidence. When Kwame finished, Moses sat back in his chair, his fingers pressed together in thought. This is very serious, Kwame. Very serious indeed. We're not just talking about divorce and child abuse. This is also corporate crime, theft, fraud, and conspiracy. If we can prove Jabari was involved in hurting Amara and stealing from your company, we're looking at criminal charges that could put both of them in prison for many, many years. Good, Kwame said coldly. That's exactly what I want. I want them to pay for every tear my daughter cried. Every bruise on her body. Every hungry night she suffered. I understand your anger, Moses said, but we need to be very careful and smart about this. If Jabari has those ownership documents, he might try to use them to claim he has rights to your company. We need to act very fast before he can file anything with the courts or the business registry. We need to protect your company and your money immediately. Tell me what to do, Kwame said. Moses pulled out some papers from his briefcase. First, we file an emergency restraining order against Natalie. She won't be allowed to come near you or Amara. Second, we report her to the police for child abuse. The medical evidence is very strong. Third, we freeze all your joint bank accounts with Natalie so she can't steal any money. And fourth, Moses pulled out another document. We need to call an emergency meeting of your company board of directors for Monday morning. We'll expose Jabari in front of everyone. We'll show them what he's done, prove his crimes, and take back control of your company before he can make his move. Monday is 3 days away, Kwame said with worry. What if Jabari tries something before then? He won't, Moses said confidently. Jabari thinks he has time. He thinks you don't know about his plan yet. We have the advantage of surprise. He's not expecting you to know anything. But Kwame, we need one more piece of evidence. We need to prove that Jabari was working with Natalie to hurt Amara and steal from your company. Do you have anything that connects them? Kwame thought for a moment. Then he remembered what Grace had said. Grace told me she heard them talking on the phone and meeting in my office. Maybe there's security footage of that too. Kwame opened his laptop again and searched through the security files. He went to the home office camera footage from last week. And there it was, clear as day. Jabari and Natalie sitting in Kwame's office, surrounded by stolen papers and documents. The audio was very clear. Kwame turned up the volume and both he and Moses listened carefully. Are you sure Kwame won't find out? That was Natalie's voice, sounding worried. He's too busy flying around the world making deals to notice anything, Jabari replied with a cruel laugh. By the time he figures out what's happening, the board of directors will have already voted me in as the new CEO. All I need is these documents and a few more signatures from the managers I've been bribing with money. What about the little brat, Amara? Natalie asked. She keeps looking at me like she wants to tell him something. I'm afraid she'll talk. Then make sure she's too scared to talk, Jabari said coldly, his voice without any feeling. I don't care what you have to do to her. Beat her, starve her, lock her up, whatever it takes to keep her quiet. We're too close to our goal to let a 10-year-old child ruin everything we've worked for. Oh, I'm already handling that, Natalie said with an evil smile. She barely eats anymore. She's terrified of me. Even if Kwame came home right now, she'd be too scared to say anything. I've broken her spirit completely. Moses Kinta's face went pale as he listened. Kwame, he said quietly, his voice shaking, they were planning to kill you. Kwame's blood ran cold. What? Moses pointed at the screen. Listen to the rest. On the video, Jabari was holding up a document. This is Kwame's will. According to this, if anything were to happen to him, if there was an accident, maybe a car crash on one of those dangerous roads, or maybe a problem during one of his construction site visits, I'm named as the guardian of his daughter Amara and the executor of his estate. Everything would become mine to control. Natalie's eyes lit up with greed. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that once we have full control of the company, once all the papers are in place, Kwame becomes unnecessary. An obstacle. And obstacles can be removed. Permanently. The video ended. The room was completely silent. Kwame sat frozen, unable to move or speak. His own cousin, his own blood relative, the family member he had helped for years, had been planning to murder him. Jabari wasn't just trying to steal his company. He was planning to kill him and take everything, including control over Amara. That's it, Kwame finally said, his voice shaking with controlled rage. That's all the evidence we need. Call the police right now. I want both of them arrested tonight. Moses held up his hand. Wait, Kwame. We need to be smart about this. If we call the police now, they'll arrest Natalie for child abuse, yes. That's clear. But Jabari could destroy evidence before we can catch him. He might run away. We need to trap both of them at the same time. How do we do that? Kwame asked. Moses thought for a moment, then smiled. We set a trap. Tomorrow you call Jabari. Tell him you're leaving town again for an emergency business trip. Tell him you need him to watch over things while you're gone. Make him think everything is normal, that you don't suspect anything. When he comes here to meet with Natalie and continue their plan, we'll have the police waiting to arrest them both. And we'll record everything they say, get them to confess. Kwame nodded slowly. Yes, that could work. Suddenly they heard shouting from upstairs. Natalie's voice, angry and desperate. Jabari? Where are you? You said you'd be here an hour ago. Kwame and Moses looked at each other. Jabari was on his way to the house right now. But this time Kwame was ready for him. Kwame stood up from his chair and walked to the bottom of the stairs. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He called up to the second floor where he could hear Natalie moving around. Natalie, he said in a calm, firm voice. Come down here. We need to talk. I'm busy, she shouted back from the guest bedroom. I said come down here now. There was silence, then footsteps. Natalie appeared at the top of the stairs. Her face was red with anger, but when she saw Moses Kinta standing in the living room with his briefcase, her expression changed to fear and worry. What's going on? She asked nervously, walking down the stairs slowly. Sit down, Kwame said, pointing to the sofa. His voice was calm but cold. Natalie sat on the edge of the couch, her hands gripping her knees tightly. Her eyes moved back and forth between Kwame and the lawyer. Moses pulled out a folder and opened it on the coffee table. Mrs. Osei, I'm Moses Kintu, Mr. Osei's attorney. I'm here to inform you that we will be filing for immediate divorce, along with a restraining order and criminal charges for child abuse and conspiracy. Natalie's face went white as paper. You can't prove anything, she said, but her voice was shaking. Actually, we can, Moses said calmly. He pulled out printed photos from the security footage. Images of Natalie hitting Amara, dragging her by the hair, locking her in closets, throwing away her food. Natalie stared at the photos, her mouth opening and closing but no words coming out. We also have medical reports from Dr. Achebe documenting all of Amara's injuries, Moses continued. We have testimony from witnesses like Grace. And we have audio and video recordings of you conspiring with Kwame Osei to commit fraud and discussing plans to harm Amara. Moses pulled out one more document and placed it on the table. It was a transcript of the conversation between Natalie and Jabari in Kwame's office, where they discussed keeping Amara too scared to talk and making Kwame unnecessary. Natalie's hands started shaking uncontrollably. Jabari made me do it, she suddenly blurted out. He said if I didn't help him he would hurt me. This was all his idea. I was just following his orders. So you admit you were working with Jabari? Moses said smoothly, writing down notes. Natalie realized her mistake too late. She had just confessed in front of a lawyer. I want my own lawyer, she said quickly. I'm not saying anything else without a lawyer. That's your right, Moses replied. But I want you to know that the police are on their way right now. You're going to be arrested tonight for child abuse, assault, and conspiracy. The only question is whether you cooperate with us and possibly reduce your prison sentence, or whether you fight this and spend the next 20 or 30 years locked up. Natalie burst into tears, but Kwame felt no sympathy. These weren't real tears of sadness. They were the same fake tears she had used to manipulate him for the past 2 years of their marriage. Where are the documents you stole from my safe? Kwame demanded. I don't have them, Natalie sobbed. Jabari took everything. He has all the papers, all the ownership documents, everything. He told me he needed them to take control of your company. Where is Jabari now? He's at his apartment in Nakasero. He was supposed to come here tonight, but he got scared when I told him you came home early. Kwame pulled out his phone and called his head of security. Thomas, it's Kwame Osei. I need you to go to my cousin Jabari's apartment in Nakasero right now. The address is apartment 15B, Pearl Towers. Don't let him leave. If he tries to run, stop him. I'll explain everything when the police arrive. 20 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up in front of Kwame's house. Their red and blue lights flashed silently in the darkness. Kwame had asked them not to use their loud sirens because he didn't want to wake Amara or alert all the neighbors. 2 officers got out of the cars. One was a tall man named Officer Musok. The other was a woman with kind eyes named Officer Nakato. Kwame met them at the front door and quickly explained everything. He showed them the security footage, the medical reports from Dr. Achebe, and the photos of Amara's bruises and injuries. The officers' faces became harder and more angry with each piece of evidence they saw. Where is your daughter now? Officer Nakato asked gently. Sleeping upstairs in my bedroom, Kwame said. She's been through so much trauma. I don't want her to wake up scared, seeing police uniforms. We understand, Officer Nakato said kindly. We'll need to speak with her eventually, but it can wait until tomorrow morning when she's had rest. For now, we need to talk to Mrs. Osei. Natalie was still sitting on the sofa in the living room, her face buried in her hands, fake crying. When she saw the police officers, she started crying even harder and louder. Officers, please, she sobbed dramatically. This is all a big misunderstanding. I love that little girl like she was my own daughter. I was only trying to discipline her properly. Kwame is overreacting because he's upset about work stress and... Ma'am, Officer Musok cut her off firmly, we've seen the video evidence. We've seen the medical reports. You can stop lying now. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. As Officer Musok read Natalie her rights, Officer Nakato took photos of the living room and Kwame's office for evidence. Natalie Osei, Officer Musok said formally, pulling out handcuffs from his belt, you are under arrest for child abuse, assault, and endangering the welfare of a minor. Please stand up and put your hands behind your back. No. Natalie screamed, jumping to her feet. You can't do this to me. I'm innocent. Kwame is lying. That brat Amara is lying. Jabari will. She stopped herself suddenly, but it was too late. Jabari? Officer Nakato looked up from her notepad. Jabari Osei, your husband's cousin? What does he have to do with this? Natalie's face went even paler as she realized she had just revealed Jabari's involvement. Moses stepped forward with another folder. Officers, we have evidence that Jabari Osei has been conspiring with Mrs. Osei to commit corporate fraud against my client. We also have recordings of Jabari encouraging Mrs. Osei to abuse the child to keep her quiet. We believe he has stolen important business documents and may be planning to flee the country. Officer Musok immediately spoke into his radio. This is Unit 7 at the Osei residence. We need backup sent to Pearl Towers, Nakasero, apartment 15B. Suspect Jabari Osei may attempt to flee. Consider him potentially dangerous. Copy that, came the response. Units are on their way. Natalie was handcuffed and led toward the police car. As she passed Kwame, she hissed at him with pure hatred in her eyes. You'll regret this. Jabari has powerful friends. Rich people. Politicians. Judges. They'll destroy you in court. They'll take everything from you. Kwame looked at her coldly. The only thing I regret is ever trusting you. You hurt my daughter. You tortured a helpless child. There's nothing worse you could have done. You deserve everything that's coming to you. The police car drove away with Natalie in the back seat, still screaming threats and crying fake tears. After the police left, Kwame felt a small sense of relief wash over him. At least Amara would be safe from Natalie now. But Jabari was still out there, and until he was caught, the danger wasn't completely over. Kwame went upstairs to check on Amara. She was still sleeping peacefully, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Her face looked more relaxed than it had in weeks. Grace was sitting in a chair beside the bed, knitting quietly and keeping watch like a protective grandmother. Is everything okay, sir? Grace whispered. Natalie has been arrested, Kwame whispered back. Now we wait for news about Jabari. At Pearl Towers in Nakasero, Jabari Osei was frantically packing a suitcase. His luxury apartment was in complete chaos. Papers were scattered everywhere, clothes thrown across the bed, important documents stacked on the dining table. He had received Natalie's panic text message an hour ago. Kwame knows everything. Get out now. Police might be coming. Jabari was a handsome man in his late 30s, tall and well-dressed, with the same dark eyes as Kwame. But where Kwame's eyes showed honesty and kindness, Jabari's eyes showed only greed and jealousy. All his life, Jabari had lived in his older cousin's shadow. Kwame was the successful one, the smart one, the one everyone in the family respected and admired. Kwame had built a fortune from their uncle's small construction business. Meanwhile, Jabari had wasted his youth drinking, gambling, and making bad business decisions. When Kwame had kindly given him a job at the construction company 5 years ago, Jabari should have been grateful and worked hard. But instead, jealousy had eaten him alive from the inside. Why should Kwame have everything? Why should Kwame be rich and respected while Jabari was just Kwame's younger cousin? So Jabari had started planning his revenge. For 2 years he had been carefully positioning himself in the company, making secret connections with corrupt managers, bribing people, stealing business secrets, and spreading lies about Kwame to important clients. Then he had met Natalie at a business party. She was beautiful, ambitious, and just as greedy and heartless as himself. Together they had created the perfect plan. Natalie would marry Kwame and keep him distracted, always traveling, always busy, never home. While Kwame was away, Jabari would slowly poison the company managers against him, steal ownership documents, and prepare to take over the entire business. And if Kwame became a problem, well, they had plans for that too. Accidents happened every day. Construction sites were dangerous places. But now everything was falling apart. Natalie had been too cruel to Amara, too obvious. And Kwame had come home early and seen everything. Jabari grabbed the stolen documents from his apartment safe. Kwame's ownership papers, contracts, and stock certificates. These were his insurance, his protection. With these documents, he could still fight for control of the company in court. He could claim that Kwame had given them to him, that there was a partnership agreement. His phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. Hello, he answered carefully. Jabari Osei? A professional voice spoke. Who is this? This is Thomas Okello from Osei Security Services. I'm standing outside your apartment building right now. Mr. Kwame Osei has requested that you stay in your apartment until the police arrive. Jabari's blood went cold. What? What are you talking about? Natalie has been arrested. The police are on their way to arrest you as well. I suggest you don't try to run. It will only make things worse for you. Jabari hung up and rushed to his window. Down below in the street, he could see a black security vehicle parked right in front of the building entrance. A large man in a uniform stood beside it with his arms crossed, watching the doors. No. No, 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 Jabari muttered to himself. He grabbed his briefcase full of stolen documents and ran for the door. He couldn't use the front entrance because security was there. But maybe he could use the back stairs, the service exit that the cleaning staff used. Jabari ran down the back stairwell as fast as he could, his expensive shoes making loud sounds on the concrete steps. 15th floor, 14th floor, 13th floor. His heart was pounding. His hands were sweating. When he reached the ground floor, he pushed open the exit door that led to the back alley. And there, waiting for him, were two police officers. Jabari Osei? One officer asked. Jabari tried to run in the opposite direction, but the officers were too fast and strong. They grabbed him and pushed him against the wall. Jabari Osei, you are under arrest for corporate fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and conspiracy to harm a minor child. You can't prove anything. Jabari shouted, struggling. I'm a respected businessman. I know important people. I know the Minister of Trade. I know judges. You'll be sorry for this. But as the cold handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Jabari knew deep down that it was over. His perfect plan had failed. All his scheming, all his lies, all his cruelty, it had all been for nothing. You have the right to remain silent, the officer continued. But Jabari wasn't silent. This is Kwame's fault, he shouted as they led him to the police car. He always had everything. He always got all the attention, all the respect, all the success. I deserve those things too. I'm family. It should have been shared. The officers put him in the back of the police car and drove away. In his briefcase they found all the stolen documents. Evidence of his crimes was right there in his hands. The next morning, sunlight came through the windows of Kwame's bedroom like warm fingers. Amara opened her eyes slowly. For a moment she was confused. This wasn't her room. Where was she? Then she remembered. Daddy had come home. Daddy had saved her. She was in his big bed, safe and protected. Mama Natalie was gone. Amara sat up carefully. Her body was still sore from all the bruises, but the fear she had carried for 2 months was gone. Sarah was gone. She was safe. The bedroom door opened gently, and Kwame entered carrying a breakfast tray. When he saw Amara awake, his face lit up with the biggest, warmest smile she had seen in months. "Good morning, my princess," he said softly. "Good morning, Daddy," Amara said. Then in a smaller, worried voice, "Is she really gone? Mama Natalie?" Kwame set the tray down on the bedside table and sat beside Amara on the bed. He took her small hands in his large, strong ones. "Yes, baby girl. Natalie is gone. She was arrested by the police last night. She's in jail now and she can never, ever hurt you again. I promise you this with all my heart." Tears of relief filled Amara's eyes. "Really? You promise?" "I promise on everything I love. You're safe now, my child." Amara started crying, but these were different tears. These were tears of relief, of freedom, of finally being protected. She threw her thin arms around Kwame's neck. "Thank you, Daddy. Thank you for coming home. Thank you for believing me." Kwame held his daughter tight, his own eyes wet with tears. "I should have been here sooner. I should have protected you from the beginning. I'm so sorry I failed you." "You didn't fail me," Amara whispered. "You saved me." They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. Finally Kwame pulled back and smiled. "Now we need to get some food into you. Dr. Achebe said you need to eat small meals throughout the day to get your strength back. Look what I brought." On the tray was scrambled eggs, toast with butter, fresh mango slices and orange juice. All of Amara's favorite foods. Amara ate slowly, enjoying every bite. Kwame sat with her the whole time, talking to her, making her laugh with silly jokes, reminding her of happy times before everything went wrong. After breakfast, Grace came to help Amara get dressed in comfortable clothes. As the old woman gently combed Amara's hair, the little girl asked quietly, "Miss Grace, were you scared of Mama Natalie too?" Grace stopped combing and nodded, her eyes filling with tears. Yes, child. I was very scared. She threatened me, said terrible things to me. But I should have been braver. I should have protected you better. It's okay, Miss Grace, Amara said, turning around to hug the old woman. Daddy says we're all safe now. And you did protect me. You gave me food when I was hungry. You were kind to me when everyone else was mean. Thank you. Grace hugged Amara back, crying. You're such a good child. Such a sweet, forgiving heart. That afternoon, Kwame kept his promise. He took Amara to the big public park in central Kampala, just like they used to do before Natalie came into their lives. They walked hand in hand through the green grass, past families having picnics and children playing football. Amara was quiet at first, staying very close to Kwame's side. But slowly, with gentle encouragement, she started to relax. They fed bread to the ducks at the pond. They bought roasted maize from a vendor. Kwame pushed Amara on the swings, and for the first time in 2 months she laughed. A real, genuine laugh that made Kwame's heart feel full of joy. As they sat on a bench under a big tree eating their roasted maize, Amara asked, Daddy, what about Uncle Jabari? Kwame had been worried about this question. How do you tell a 10-year-old child that her uncle had betrayed the whole family? Uncle Jabari made some very bad choices, my child, Kwame said carefully. He hurt people and did things that were wrong. So he has to face the consequences, just like Natalie. Was he helping her hurt me? Amara asked, her voice very small. Kwame couldn't lie to her. She deserved the truth. Yes, sweetheart. He was part of the plan. I'm so sorry. Amara was quiet for a moment, eating her maize slowly. Then she said, I knew something was wrong with Uncle Jabari. He used to be nice and funny, but then he changed. He would look at me with mean eyes. And once I heard him tell Mama Natalie that I was in the way of their plans. Kwame pulled Amara close. You were never in the way. You are the most important person in my whole life. And anyone who hurt you or tried to hurt you will pay for it. That's my promise to you. I believe you, Daddy, Amara whispered. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, Kwame and Amara walked home together hand in hand. For the first time in 2 months, Amara felt like a normal little girl again. No fear, no hunger, no pain. Just love and safety and the warm feeling of being protected. But Kwame knew this was only the beginning of a long journey. Sarah and Jabari were arrested, yes, but there was still so much work to do. He needed to take back full control of his company and expose all the managers who had been working with Jabari. He needed to find Amara the best therapist in Uganda to help her heal from the trauma. And most importantly, he needed to be the father Amara deserved, present, protective, and loving every single day. The following Monday morning, Kwame stood in front of the board of directors of his construction company. The emergency meeting was held in the big conference room on the 20th floor of the company headquarters. 12 people sat around the long table, all looking serious and concerned. Moses Kinta stood beside Kwame with boxes of evidence. Some of the board members were old family friends. Others were investors who had helped the company grow over the years. And 3 empty seats belonged to the managers Jabari had bribed, who had already been fired. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, Kwame began. I've called this meeting because I've discovered something very serious. Something that affects the future of this company and everyone in it. What's this about, Kwame? Asked Robert Mukasa, one of his late father's oldest friends. Your secretary said it was urgent but wouldn't give any details. It's about betrayal, Kwame said simply. Corporate crime, fraud, theft, and conspiracy. The room fell completely silent. Everyone stared at Kwame with shocked faces. For the past 2 years, Kwame continued, someone in this company has been stealing from us. Sharing our business secrets with competitors. Bribing board members, forging documents, and planning to take over as CEO by pushing me out. That's a very serious accusation, said one board member. Do you have proof? I do. Kwame nodded to Moses, who started a projector. The first image appeared on the big screen. It was a bank statement showing a transfer of 50 million Ugandan shillings from one of Jabari's personal accounts to the account of one of the fired managers. This transfer was made 4 months ago, Moses explained. The note says consulting fee, but this manager never did any consulting work for Kwame Osei. This was a bribe. More images appeared. Emails, text messages, recorded phone calls. All showing Jabari bribing managers to vote against Kwame's proposals and support Jabari's plans instead. The other board members looked shocked and angry. "There's more," Kwame said grimly. Jabari wasn't just trying to control the board. He was stealing money from the company. Moses showed bank records proving that Jabari had been secretly transferring money from company accounts to his personal accounts. Small amounts at first, then larger and larger sums. Over 2 years he had stolen almost 500 million shillings. He also sold our confidential information to Morrison Construction Company, our biggest competitor, Moses continued. Here are the emails proving it. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails from Jabari to Morrison Construction, selling them the company's secret building plans, client lists, and bid information. In exchange, Morrison had paid Jabari 300 million shillings under the table. One board member stood up, his face red with anger. "That traitor. He nearly destroyed everything your father built." "But the worst part," Kwame said, his voice heavy with emotion, "is what Jabari did to my daughter." Moses clicked to show a photo of Amara. The medical photo showing her bruised arms and thin body. Several board members gasped and some had tears in their eyes. "This is my daughter, Amara," Kwame said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "She's 10 years old. For the past 2 months, my wife Natalie systematically abused her. Starved her, beat her, terrorized her. And Jabari knew about it. In fact, he encouraged it." Moses played the audio recording from Kwame's home office, where Jabari and Natalie discussed keeping Amara too scared to talk and doing whatever it took to keep her quiet. The conference room was completely silent except for the sound of some board members crying quietly. "Why would Jabari do this?" asked one woman. "What did that innocent child ever do to him?" "Amara did nothing," Kwame said. But Jabari saw her as an obstacle to his plan. You see, Jabari wasn't just trying to steal the company. He was planning something much worse. Moses played the final recording. The one where Jabari discussed how Kwame was named in his will as Amara's guardian, and how Kwame might become unnecessary once they had control of everything. How an accident might happen. When the recording ended, there was complete shocked silence in the room. Robert Mukasa stood up, his hands shaking with rage. "That monster. That evil, evil man. Kwame, I am so deeply sorry. If we had known, if any of us had suspected what was happening, we would have stopped it immediately." "I know," Kwame said. "Jabari was very clever. He manipulated everyone. He had me traveling constantly so I couldn't see what was happening in my own home. He blocked important phone calls from reaching me. He paid my assistant to keep information from me. He was very, very careful in his planning." "Where is Jabari now?" another board member asked. "In prison," Moses answered. Both Jabari and Natalie were arrested. They've been denied bail and are waiting for trial. Based on the evidence we have, they're each looking at 25 to 30 years in prison. "Good," Robert said firmly. "They deserve every single year of that sentence. Both of them." The board meeting continued for another 2 hours. Kwame presented his plans for restructuring the company with new oversight systems, regular audits, and an ethics committee to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. Every single board member voted to support Kwame's plans. They also voted to sue Jabari to recover all the stolen money, plus damages. After the meeting ended, several board members came to Kwame personally to express their support and ask about Amara. "How is she doing?" asked Jennifer Namyasok, a grandmother who had known Amara since she was born. "That poor little angel." "She's healing," Kwame said slowly. "She's seeing a therapist now. She's eating properly again. And most importantly, she feels safe. We have a long road ahead of us, but she's strong. She'll recover. Please tell her that Aunt Jennifer sends her love," the woman said with tears in her eyes. "And if there's anything I can do to help, anything at all, please let me know." "Actually, there is something," Kwame said. "Amara loves art. Her therapist said art therapy might help her express her feelings and heal. Do you still have that connection to the children's art studio downtown?" "I'll make the arrangements today," Jennifer promised. "Amara will have unlimited sessions completely free. It's the least I can do. 6 weeks after the arrest, the trials began. The courtroom was packed with reporters, spectators, and witnesses. Kwame sat in the front row with Moses beside him. Amara was not required to testify. The judge had ruled that the video evidence and medical reports were more than sufficient, and that making Amara relive her trauma in court would be unnecessarily cruel. Natalie's trial came first. She sat at the defense table looking small and defeated, wearing an orange prison uniform. Her public defender tried to argue that she had been manipulated by Jabari, that she was a victim too. But the evidence was too strong. Dr. Achebe testified about Amara's injuries. The bruises at different stages of healing, proving the abuse happened many times. The malnutrition and dehydration. Mrs. Thompson, Amara's teacher, testified about the dramatic change in Amara's behavior and appearance at school. The calls she made trying to warn someone, calls that were blocked. Grace testified about what she witnessed in the house every day. The abuse, the starvation, the cruelty. And then Moses played the security footage for the entire courtroom. Video after video of Natalie hitting Amara, screaming at her, locking her in closets, throwing away her food. By the time the footage ended, several jury members were crying. Even the judge looked shaken and disturbed. The jury took only 3 hours to reach their decision. We find the defendant, Natalie Osei, guilty on all charges. Natalie collapsed in her chair, sobbing. But Kwame felt no pity or sympathy. She had hurt his daughter. She deserved everything that was coming. At sentencing the following week, the judge looked at Natalie with cold, hard eyes. Mrs. Osei, you systematically tortured a helpless 10-year-old child. You starved her, beat her, terrorized her. And you did it all while pretending to be her stepmother, someone who should have protected her. I have seen many disturbing cases in my 25 years as a judge, but few have disgusted me as much as this one. The judge paused, then continued firmly, I am sentencing you to 18 years in prison with no possibility of early release. You will also pay 75 million shillings in compensation to the victim for medical expenses, therapy, and emotional suffering. And you will have a permanent restraining order preventing you from ever contacting Amara Osei or Kwame Osei again for the rest of your life. Natalie was led away in handcuffs, still crying and screaming that it wasn't fair. Jabari's trial was longer because of all the corporate crimes involved. But the evidence against him was just as overwhelming. The prosecution presented the stolen documents, the bribery evidence, the money transfers, and the audio recordings of Jabari conspiring with Natalie. Jabari's expensive lawyer tried every trick possible. He claimed Jabari was framed. He argued that the recordings were taken out of context. He suggested that Kwame had created fake evidence because of family rivalry. But none of it worked. The jury saw through all the lies. When the prosecution played the recording of Jabari telling Natalie to keep the brat too scared to talk, and discussing how Kwame might have an accident, the jury's faces showed pure disgust and anger. Jabari was found guilty on all charges: corporate fraud, theft, conspiracy to harm a child, and conspiracy to commit murder. At his sentencing, Jabari showed no regret or remorse. He stood before the judge with his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with hatred and jealousy. Mr. Jabari Osei, the judge said sternly, you betrayed your own family. You tried to steal your cousin's life's work. You conspired to abuse his innocent daughter. And you planned to murder him. You are not just a criminal. You are a danger to society. The judge sentenced Jabari to 28 years in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 18 years. He was also ordered to pay back all the stolen money, plus damages totaling 800 million shillings. As Jabari was led away, he turned and looked at Kwame one last time with pure hatred. This isn't over, cousin, he hissed through his teeth. But Kwame didn't flinch or look away. Yes, it is, he said calmly and firmly. You lost. And now you'll spend the best years of your life in prison, thinking about how your greed and jealousy destroyed you. Jabari was dragged away by guards, screaming threats and curses. 3 months after the trials ended, Amara returned to school. Kwame drove her there himself on her first day back, walking her all the way to Mrs. Thompson's classroom, holding her hand. Are you ready, my princess? Kwame asked, kneeling down to her level outside the classroom door. Mary looked nervous, but she nodded bravely. I think so, Daddy. Remember, if you feel scared or uncomfortable, or if you need me for anything, Mrs. Thompson has my phone number. I can be here in 10 minutes. I'm never far away. Okay, Daddy. Amara walked into the classroom. Immediately, her classmates surrounded her with hugs and excitement. Amara, you're back. We missed you so much. Come sit with us at lunch. Want to play at break time? Kwame watched through the doorway as Amara smiled. A real, genuine smile full of happiness. She was going to be okay. She was healing. Mrs. Thompson caught Kwame's eye and gave him a warm, encouraging smile and thumbs up. As Kwame walked back to his car, he felt peace in his heart for the first time in months. The people who hurt Amara were locked away in prison where they belonged. His company was secure and growing again. And most importantly, Amara was healing, smiling, and starting to be a normal, happy child again. Kwame drove to his office, but everything was different now. He had restructured his entire life. No more constant traveling. No more being absent for weeks at a time. He had hired excellent managers to handle the international projects. His priority now was being present for Amara every single day. Every morning he had breakfast with her. Every afternoon he picked her up from school himself. Every evening they had dinner together and talked about their days. On weekends they went to the park, visited museums, or just stayed home playing games and reading books together. Amara was seeing a wonderful therapist twice a week, Dr. Nabukina, who specialized in helping children heal from trauma. And she was attending art therapy sessions at the children's studio, where she painted and drew to express her feelings. Slowly, day by day, week by week, the scared, thin, traumatized little girl was transforming back into a happy, healthy, confident child. 6 months after everything happened, Kwame and Amara were sitting in their living room on a Saturday afternoon. Amara was showing Kwame a painting she had made in art therapy. Showed a little girl holding hands with her father, both of them smiling with a bright sun shining above them. "This is beautiful, my princess," Kwame said, his eyes getting wet with happy tears. "Is this us?" "Yes," Amara said proudly. "Dr. Nabukina said I should paint happy memories and happy feelings. This is how I feel now. Safe and happy with you." Kwame pulled Amara into a big hug. "You are the strongest, bravest little girl I know. I'm so proud of you." "Daddy?" Amara said quietly. "Yes, my child? Thank you for saving me. Thank you for coming home that day. Thank you for believing me and protecting me." "I will always protect you," Kwame promised. "Always. That's what fathers do." As the sun set over Kampala, painting the sky in beautiful colors, Kwame held his daughter close. The nightmare was over. Justice had been served. And most importantly, Amara was healing and happy again. The road had been long and painful. There were still hard days ahead as Amara continued her healing journey. But they were together, they were safe, and they had each other. And that was everything. Thank you so much for watching this story on Tales by Cal. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful African stories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Remember, children are precious gifts that must be protected. If you know a child who is being hurt or abused, please speak up. Don't stay silent. You could save a life. Tell us in the comments what lesson you learned from this story, and don't forget to let us know where you're watching from. See you in the next story. Stay blessed.